One, two, three, four.
I have this joke when somebody asks what I do, it's that I rewrite stories over many years so that maybe someone who knows someone somewhere might someday pay me for the right to force people to memorize the story and repeat it nightly to people who make more money than I do. I became a playwright because I got fired from playing Juliet. It was traumatic. It was really upsetting. So all of that thwarted energy that I had stored up for that production, I wrote my first 10-minute play. I funneled that energy into writing, and that first play, I'll never forget. It just was such a thrill to hear an audience laugh at something that I wrote. But playwriting was the door that kept opening, and it just became the thing that I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And so I wrote 3 plays a year, and I self-produced, and I got small companies to produce my work and do readings. And because I never thought I could go to grad school, so I was trying to like build my own sort of rigorous way of learning about plot and structure and dialogue and figure all these things out. So I learned by doing. I eventually did go to grad school. I studied with Tina Howe, who is just like a fairy godmother in playwriting. Playwriting is, you get a lot of criticism, you get a lot of not encouragement to be a playwright, and she is just sort of there with this, she holds space for you in this really beautiful way and sees you and sees your work, and just kind of keeps you focused on what's important in the work. I've been doing it for 15 years now, and I have come to understand that it will never support me. And I didn't know that. You kind of see, I think there's this assumption out there that I even had that that professors, that artists, writers make a comfortable living. You think of them with their bookcases, and they're just able to sit and sip coffee and think about their work. And it's like, no, the reality is you have 2 or 3 side hustles always. And so that makes it very hard, because in order to write well, you have to have time. You have to be able to kind of like push away all the other worldly daily concerns in order to do a deep dive into your work. So it's been a dance. There's so many things that can hijack your writing, just trying to build up a structure to support your work. I feel like the average, working class, like I come from a very modest family, like that voice I feel is needed, I want to see stories on stage that reflect the lived reality of working class people. So that's why I stay in it. And that's, one of the reasons that I write my plays. I like to see on stage things that I have never seen before. So like setting is one, almost a character in my plays. I have a play set in the Yukon Gold Rush. I have a play set in a storage facility. I have a play set on a submarine. And I like to think about, like, for example, the submarine play, you can't escape. It's a compressed situation. And then in Act 2, they go into a smaller submersible to go out and look for things. And so what does that do to the character? It becomes the foil against which the action is set, the characters, their behavior is set, how they're responding to that environment. I think that's where some really fun energy can come if you jam 2 different ideas together in one space. I had a brain injury. I was at my boyfriend's house, and he had someone doing repairs on the roof. He dropped a pair of shears from the roof line, and I heard it clatter and skitter down, and I was so worried that it was going to hit my boyfriend. And before I could say anything, it hit me, luckily not with the pointy end, but like a rubberized handle, like it hit me here and here. And of course, your impulse with something like that is like, oh no, I'm fine, I'm good. The narrator voice says she was not fine. And thing about a brain injury is, because it's your brain, you have a limited understanding of what's wrong with it. And so the first year was especially difficult. I had a lot of challenges. I had emotional challenges. I had 2 seizure-like events. I had to write a lot of things down when they happened because I had short-term memory problems. I'm still seeing improvement. And so, it was horrible. I mean, it was the worst thing I've ever gone through because I was scared that I would always be lost. It's very unsettling. It changes your understanding of your own ability and identity in terms of what you're capable of doing. It was about a year into it, I finally talked to somebody who also had a brain injury. And I will tell you, I can still remember that conversation, like where I was. It was life-changing because I felt understood. And then one after another, I started to find more people. And I realized that we were all going through these things alone, in isolation. The isolation was very hard, feeling like your loved ones don't understand. They can know you have a brain injury, but like their experience is that you're not really present. So I started workshops on resiliency. I did not advertise it for brain injured people, and yet that's who showed up. I had 5 people show up who all had a brain injury. And so I was able to deliver the content about, how do you build resiliency when you're going through something traumatic, and you're going through something that's just a crisis, and you feel like the ground is out from under you. Like, how do you deal with that? It's one thing to recover from a brain injury. It's another thing to build your life back and, find community and find joy and find purpose and make a living. If you can have sort of a structured way of doing that inquiry and thinking about it, it's a little bit less scary, I think. Making space for those kinds of inquiry, community, what does that mean? Does it mean activism? Does it mean your family? Does it mean your friendships? All of that goes by the wayside when you're recovering from something. And it doesn't have to be a brain injury. It can be like, a chronic illness or something that keeps you, a disability, something that keeps you apart from people. So how do you problem solve that? How do you build community? What does community mean to you? I don't offer the workshops as if I have like one tried and true way of offering resilience, but I want to give people tools so that they can build their own relationships and their own ways of navigating the challenges. Art, whatever art you're consuming right now, that it gives us an anchor, an emotional anchor. I think it's a time of reflection right now. And pause and questioning and being curious. I think a lot of people are asking a lot of big questions right now. And when I write a play, I'm usually circling around a question that I don't know the answer to. I'm convinced the day I start to write a play where I know the answer to the question is the day I start to write a really, really shitty play. So questions, I think we all have a lot of questions right now, and art can be that anchor and that way through.